Now, with this terror attack at Uri, India-Pakistan relations obviously hitting a new low, what happens from here on with the UN General Assembly session, where Pakistan is going to make a statement on raising the issue of Srinagar in just 2 days from now? Joining us right now is Brigadier V. Mahalingam. He is a defense expert. Also, Dr. Wael Awad, South Asia Bureau Chief of Syria State Publication, Sana. Thanks, both of you, for joining us this evening.
And we'll continue the conversation with Mr. Mahalingam first in the studio. Thanks again for being here. Let's start with, the situation with security on the ground, being a former defense expert. How is it possible that 4 terrorists were able to get through and, a very protected, or what should be protected area, and be able to storm there with grenades and handguns and cause such a deadly terror attack? What are your thoughts on that?
See, first of all, this particular issue of the terrorists being able to get across is a bit of a failure on the part of the people to secure that place. Having said that, the situation will have to be understood. There was a brigade headquarters there, and the barrack or the place where the attack took place was not part of the brigade headquarters. It was a rear dump, in the sense one of the units, 10 Dogras is the unit, they had kept their stores which cannot be carried forward. They have dumped it there, and certain elements who are medically unfit, who are tradesmen and such other people have been kept there to just merely look after those people. In addition to that, a new unit, because of the turnover that is taking place, an advanced party element had just come, and they had been temporarily housed there in tentages. And what had happened was, because of lack of space and because of inability to pitch up adequate number of tents, more number of people were put inside the tents, and these militants, having got inside, fired inside the tents, rather from outside the tents,
right,
with the AK-47 rifles. They had the incendiary bombs which straight away catches fire. With the result, the tents caught fire, and the people didn't even have the chance to sort of escape. And that is how this particular casualty had taken place.
We're going to be talking more about the after effects of this attack and what it means for India and Pakistan at the diplomatic level. But we do know that Pakistan is now preparing to forcefully highlight the situation in Kashmir at the UN session in 2 days from now. India too wanted to take up Balochistan, but now do you think India can stress more on the Uri attacks and play this to their advantage at that, in front of all these countries that are going to be there?
Absolutely, it must be taken on, because as you are aware, the entire world knows the way Pakistan has been doing things. In fact, I must tell you, on the 28th of August this month, Sinhua News Agency published an article in which they have said that in Afghanistan, the trouble is because of the terror locations outside Afghanistan, and they have very categorically said that the terror outfits like IS, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda and the other affiliate elements are a creation of the intelligence agencies outside Afghanistan, pointing a straight finger in Afghanistan. Therefore, as far as the world is concerned, the entire world knows. Even for that matter, I would also like to tell you, the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, which met, I think, on the 12th or something like that this month, they had come out and every single senator criticized. And they had gone to the extent of saying Pakistan must be declared a terror state and sanctions must be imposed on Pakistan. Therefore, as far as the world is concerned, they have no doubt whatsoever about Pakistan's intentions, the way they are supporting and growing terrorism.
So should India then, Dr. Wael Awad, let's welcome you into this discussion, should India now, with all that it has now, pressurize the international community to do something with Pakistan, to impose sanctions on it economically, to hit them in other ways possible? Is this the right time, with the UN General Assembly session happening right now, India and Pakistan both going to be there?
Well, first of all, my condolences to the families of the victims who have been of this terrorist attack. And the second part of your question is with, yes, I think India diplomatically is going to be on the offensive. to isolate Pakistan internationally, because India have the full right to take this issue internationally and regionally as well, because as long as you do not deal with the infrastructure of terrorist organization, whether it is inside Pakistan territory, knowing to the establishment, unknown to the establishment, I think it's a high time such kind of a heinous crime against a military establishment should be condemned and should be stopped if Pakistan really think that India and Pakistan, and should not allow Pakistan its territory to be used against India.
Mr. Awad, to continue the discussion with you again, with regards to Pakistan, specifically, at this point, India is saying that this is a group, and they're pointing the fingers at Islamabad. India's Home Minister pointing the blame just hours after the attack. Pakistan, of course, coming back and saying there's just simply not enough evidence. At this point, what do you think India's, all eyes are watching India, what should India's move be as, they head into the UN to respond to this, one of the deadliest terror attacks on its own soil?
I think there are two sides of looking at this issue. One is that India has to establish fully that Pakistan groups are behind the attack. And this kind of modus operandi, it can be fingered out at Lashkar al-Taiba or jaish-e-mohammad, which is usually a Fidaiyin kind of an attack on Indian establishment. The second part, India and the international community, in fact, has been condemning this kind of act against Indian troops. So if there is any seriousness in the international community to establish the fact on the ground and make Pakistan act on the previous attack in Pathankot or in 26/11 in Mumbai, I think it's a high time that the international community will be more than keen to listen to the Indian voice.
All right, coming back to you, Brigadier Mahalingam. Now, you're an expert as far as defense matters go. Why don't you tell us what the latest developments mean in terms of, we saw India's DGMO once again coming out in front of media persons and saying what happened yesterday, highlighting the role of Pakistan and, giving out a statement saying that we are prepared to tackle anything at this point in time as far as defending our own country is concerned, because this attack is big. At the same time, we also saw visuals coming in from Pakistan of General Raheel Sharif in a huddle with top commanders and saying that we are ready to defend our country, we're ready to take on whatever threat there is to Pakistan. So do you see a big, sign of things to come in the near future?
No, see, you must have heard that Prime Minister Modi have very categorically said that those people who have perpetrated this, they will be punished.
Go unpunished.
Sure. Having said that, then I must bring out that the troops are involved, their morale is involved. Time and again, the Pakistani terrorists have come, hit the people, and we have lost any number of terrorists, any number of soldiers.
Yeah.
Now, keeping quiet like this, just indulging in talks and rhetoric doesn't solve the problem. And the soldiers today, they are saying that the government only talks. We are continuously losing lives. Nothing is happening. Therefore, it is time now the government of India will have to take action to prove to the soldiers at least that your interests are being catered for, being looked into. The second thing is, which I must also tell you, as far as the people of this country are concerned, they have lost all patience. If you have been listening to all the TV channels, you would be able to sense the sense of the people.
Right.
Thirdly, I must also tell you, as far as the Pakistan's army, which controls everything, they are not going to understand good words, logic, and things like that. They will only stop this nonsense when you hit them and hit them hard.
Right.
As far as India is concerned, there are two options. One is at the tactical level. The tactical level, when I say, it can be by the commanders right at the LOC or at the international border.
Okay.
They could take on some of these posts,
right,
which harbor terrorists, which sort of keep terrorists from where there is likelihood of these
points
things
of
coming
infiltration.
up.
Yeah.
They could immediately, it would be not more than one night's operation. Go in, give a good punch, a visible sort of an action, and create casualties and tell the people, yes, this is what Pakistan did and we have been able to achieve this. In addition to that, The second option that you have is to do something where you can tell the Pakistan's army, stop it, and this is the beginning. That will have to be a coordinated, well-planned action,
Right.
and it will have to be at a place and time of our choosing.
Right.
It will take time. The Air Force, the intelligence agencies, everyone will have to be coordinated and cooperative.
Get it.
And this is going to take time. Now, it wouldn't take place before the UN General Assembly session finishes.
Right.
It would perhaps, if at all they are planning to do.
If it has to be planned, it's going to take some time at least.
As far as the Pakistan army is concerned, the point which you brought out,
Yeah.
Rahil Sharif knows that whatever has happened has been created by Pakistan. And he knows that India might strike. He knows that the patience is running out.
Right.
Therefore, he essentially is telling his commanders to be on the guard so that they are not caught napping.
And sort of adding to that discussion point, I wanted to bring in about the timing of all of this, the strategic part. Was this, an interesting choice of timing by the alleged terrorists, if they're from Pakistan, with regards to this terror attack with the UN meeting just happening, or poor miscalculation that the fact that this could, make India look a lot more compassionate at the UN meeting?
Absolutely, you are absolutely correct. This entire thing, the Pakistan has ill-timed it. That is exactly what I would say. Because the world is fed up of Pakistan and its terror activities. Everyone knows. Even if people are not fed up with Pakistan,
Right.
countries like Paris, or rather France, and things like this, they are looking at terrorism with a very, very skeptical sort of eye.
In fact, this is a very right time to get that support from the international community. Dr. Awad, if I can come back to you, what do you have to say about what Brigadier Mahalingam just suggested? There are two options. One is tactical, one is that military option where we wait it out and go in and then hit Pakistan. But do you think that India can perhaps start very immediately? Other experts seem to be suggesting, like, take back the most favored nation status from Pakistan, stop trade along the LOC, and, economically hit Pakistan first before going in for anything else.
Well, India definitely is weighing all the options. You have domestic compulsion, you have the public opinion, you have the nation behind the Prime Minister. But let me here be a little bit more harsh in my saying that emotion does not build a nation. I understand the sentiment of the people. They're losing their families. I am from a country where are victims of terrorism. And also, the Americans have attacked a Syrian position. We lost 64 soldiers and more than 100 injured. The problem is that if you are strong enough, you know where to hit hard. And you do not need to do it militarily at the time of your enemy choosing. You can always do it economically, politically, and make the nation bleed and come to its knee and really come to the table to discuss. India have done that militarily in 1971.
Right.
They had Shimla Agreement. They had the Bangladesh liberation. There are many ways India can do on this issue. But I think as a responsible state like India, there will be more of a diplomatic aggression from India toward Pakistan and to make the Pakistani bleed economically and politically at least.
And I understand, Mr. Mahalingam, you wanted to respond to what
Yeah,
Mr. Abbas said. What's your
I
stance?
wanted to just say a word about this diplomatic action which people are talking about.
Do you agree with that at all?
No, I just want to say one thing, that people keep reiterating that we must pressurize Pakistan, isolate Pakistan, and so on and so forth. Will that ever sort of bring in any results? It is, to my way of looking, it is not going to bring in any result. As far as the world countries which are not directly affected, and especially not affected by Pakistan, it is just showing sympathy. India doesn't need sympathy. What it requires, firm action. As far as Indian diplomacy is concerned, they must now insist that Pakistan must be declared a terror state and sanctions must be imposed. Along with that, I would also say that India will have to be proactive and hit hard at those targets which will hurt Pakistan, and especially Pakistan's military. Until and unless you do it, Pakistan couldn't care less, because Pakistan's army is controlling Pakistan's military.
Right.
The civil has no say whatsoever, and it will continue to do that, and the international community can keep debating about it as long as they want to.
Absolutely. We've seen that situation in Syria and many other parts of the world as well. But Dr. Awad, very quickly coming back to you, how important do you think is political consensus before India goes ahead and, makes a statement, does something, or as we're calling it, acts, the action that India will show now? How important is political consensus, seeing that we see that the Congress and the Congress is hitting out at the BJP, saying that they're doing nothing, India must respond, calling for action. So the importance of political consensus at this juncture.
I think we're talking to the political leaders in India. We get the feeling that everybody is rallying behind the government and need to take action to stop this cross-border terrorism from Pakistan. The least the government of India can do is tracking those infrastructure of the terrorist organization allegedly inside Pakistan or inside Pakistan Kashmir part. Then you may have to see an action by the Indian government. Beyond that, it is just waning or gaining on the domestic issues, which is not the time really of a grievance of the nation to talk or to blame the government and things. I think there is a responsibility on the government shoulder, and there are enough Indian leaders to take the issue tactically and choose the right time when, and the army understand and weighing all the options that to go and fight an army of Pakistan, I don't think it is the right time to go or any time in the future. It is India is strong enough to ensure its right, and its right is might and not other way around.
And again, just wrapping up, sort of as a closure to this discussion, certainly in a lot of topics that we can address, but in the essence of time, Mr. Awad, can we just talk about, at this point, in summary, the world leaders of the meeting, we've heard from Afghanistan, the United States, the UK and Russia now all expressing their frustrations with Pakistan. What exactly at this point do we expect to happen, or if anything really, with this meeting at the UN? And let's bring this to a sort of a closing stance. What are your thoughts? Final remarks.
Is that to be?
Yes, Mr. Awad, that was to you. We'll have a statement from you and we'll go to Mr. Mahalingam. Just some final thoughts about this discussion.
Let me summarize it in 2 words. The terrorism in this part of the world should be dealt with the countries concerned. There are vested interested countries who created this terrorist organization would like to see country like India emerging as a superpower to bleed. So I think India has to weigh its option and deal with this terrorism once and for all. It is a similar things we have in Syria, similar things we have in Libya and Boko Haram. Terrorism is created as a project, and we should be careful in dealing with it.
Brigadier Mahalingam, your thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this discussion.
The terrorism has reached a limit. As far as the world is concerned, people and countries will have to unite. And we'll have to understand there are no good terrorists or bad terrorists. And a country which supports, which finances terrorists is a terror state, and they have to be ostraced, and it has got to be looked down upon, and sanctions will have to be stopped. It is only then something will happen and the world will be able to get out of this terrorism menace.
And real quick about that, you mentioned about sanctions. Certain countries have stepped in and said that. We've seen Russia talk about stopping some of the drills. But what about China and all this equation? China has sort of been the other side of India. What have they said, or what should they say?
I must bring out 2 very important things.
Sure.
China has published an article, that is the Xinhua news agency, on the 28th of August,
right,
where they have spoken exclusively about the Afghanistan trouble. They have said that the countries outside who are sort of fostering terrorism, funding terrorism, are responsible for the terrorism in Afghanistan. The second thing that they have said is that the IS, the Taliban, and the Al-Qaeda and other affiliate groups, they are all the creation of intelligence agencies of country outside Afghanistan, pointing a straight finger at Pakistan. And also, I must tell you, the Israeli newspaper has published, I think in 2014, they have published an article and where they have said that the advisor to the Prime Minister has handed over evidences to prove that Pakistan is training Chinese militants,
Right.
thousands of them in their soil.
So in a nutshell, the world is watching very closely what's happening. The world knows where the terrorists are being trained, where they're coming from. Now the question remains as to what happens at the UN General Assembly session and how much attention is India able to draw to what happened at Uri to cast a shadow on what the Pakistani Prime Minister says. On that note, I'd like to thank you, Brigadier Mahalingam, very much for joining us. Also, Dr. Wael Awad for joining us this evening, being a part of this discussion.